All right, this presentation is about money. I know when I talk to pharmacists, if I say Amazon, opioids, or reimbursement, everybody gets excited. So this is kind of about reimbursement, right? So I'm going to invite Hans Boateng to the stage, and he's going to give us his presentation on finance. Thanks, Hans.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chad. First and foremost, I want to thank you all for being here. You know, money is so important. But then what often happens is that, you know, we go to pharmacy school, we have to focus on therapeutics and all of that, and we graduate, and that's when we realize that, okay, I'm earning all of this money, but at what point am I going to understand how to manage it? And I'm here to share that with you all today. So then growing up, my parents didn't teach me anything about money. Nothing at all. So I had to figure this out. So at age 18, I walked into an electronics store with the aim of going to purchase a handheld gaming device. So then, mind you, just turned 18, and I'm about to make the first real-world big financial decision, and I was ill-equipped. So then I walk into the store. A store associate sees me from a distance and walks up to me. He's like, "Young man, how can I help you?" I'm like, "Sir, I'm looking to purchase a handheld gaming device." And he's like, "Are you going to be using a cash or a credit card?" And I was like, "Excuse me, what is a credit card?" He's like, "Oh, let me tell you about all of the benefits of a credit card." He's like, "It is money that you can get today, you can spend it, and you don't need to worry about it, you know, for some time. You know, you can pay it off later." And I was like, "So it's money that you just give to me?" He's like, "Yes. Do you want to, you know, consider applying for it?" I was like, "Why not?" So he's like, "Follow me." You know, so I follow him to his computer, and he's like, "What's your name?" I was like, "Hans." Last name, I give it to him. Address, just handed it to him. Social security number, handed it to him as well. He asked, "Are you working full-time or part-time?" I was like, "Oh, I'm working part-time." He says, "How much do you earn?" I said, "Oh, about $8 an hour at that time." He took all of that information, and he's like, "Hans, you've been approved for $3,000. I looked at him, I was like, "3,000? You remember I told you I was coming in here for a handheld gaming device? Forget about that. I want an Xbox 360. He's like, "Sure." So he brings the Xbox 360. I'm like, "Can I get 5 of your top selling games?" He's like, "Sure." He brings it as well. And I was like, and I think I need a 42-inch flat screen TV because I need something to play this, you know, this Xbox on. And he's like, "Sure." So then, you know, I finished with my transaction. On my way out, I stopped for a moment and I'm like, when the bill comes, am I going to be able to afford this? And he's like, "Oh yeah, Hans, don't worry about it." I was like, "Sure." So then I go home. A week and a half later, the bill comes. I, you know, take out the envelope. I stare at it for a few minutes, kind of scared to open it. I open it up, and it tells me I owe $25 a month. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, America is the greatest country in the world. $25 a month, sure, I can pay that." So I begin making my $25 a month payments. So then fast forward, I, you know, go to undergrad. And one day I was making my $25 payment, and my girlfriend at that time, she's currently my wife, she's like, "What are you doing? It says that your balance is $1,500. Why are you paying $25? I tell her, "That's what the credit card company wants me to pay. They have it on there. They said $25, you know, minimum balance." And she's like, "Do you know about interest?" It's like, "Interest? What do you mean by interest?" And colleagues, that's when my journey into personal finance began. So then I began reading every single book that I could find on the topic of money. It started with Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That was kind of the introductory book to kind of usher me into personal finance. After that book, I went on to read over 300 books on the topic of personal finance and investing. I've read over 30,000 articles over a 10-year period. And I'm here to share with you all the main core things that I took away. And there are three things which I'm going to be going over with you all today. The first is debt, right? It's so important that we all understand debt, because if you go to, pharmacy school, more than likely you're going to graduate with student debt. So then we're going to touch on debt. The second thing that we're going to talk about is saving. It's very important to save, but you need to understand the purpose of a savings account. And the third thing that we're going to look at is investing. Typically, that's what a lot of people overlook because it's so distant, right? It's so far away. Oh, I don't need to worry about it now because my student loan bill is due, right? So then let's start off with debt. I'm sure you all know the common advice that we receive with regards to debt. Pay it off, right? That's what 90% of finance books say. Pay off all debt and pay it off quickly, okay? So I'm here to share a different perspective. You need to understand that there are two types of debt. There's good debt, and then there's bad debt. And what do I mean by this? Let me give you a definition. Good debt is debt that typically low interest debt, right? So below 10%. So good debt is debt that you take on to get an asset, and that asset either pays you money or it gets you something that increases in value over time. So good debt pays you back, or you acquire something that increases in value over time. Bad debt, on the other hand, is typically high interest debt that is used to buy things that decrease in value over time. So that's the difference. So what's an example of good debt? The best one that I can find is student loan debt. And I'm sure you disagree with me because you don't understand money like I do. Student loan debt is good debt. Why? Because the debt allows you to earn a degree, and that degree pays you an income which allows you to pay off the debt. And once the debt is paid off, you consistently keep making money for the rest of your life. That is good debt. What about bad debt? That is when you pretend to be me, right? When I was 18, you go into a store and you go get that store's credit card and you buy something that eventually becomes worthless because I don't even know where that Xbox 360 is right now, right? So bad debt is high interest debt that you use to purchase something that decreases in value over time. You don't want to do that. So how do you kind of tackle these two types of debt? Bad debt, because it's high interest debt, is debt that you need to, reduce, pay off. Good debt, on the other hand, needs to be managed. Why do I say it needs to be managed instead of, it needs to be paid off quickly? Because good debt often comes with benefits that you won't find with any type of bad debt. For example, good debt often comes with tax advantages, right? It comes with different repayment programs. So for example, student loan debt, depending on where you work, you can qualify for student loan forgiveness. Everyone qualifies for income-based repayments. That's where you set your student loan payments at 10% of your income. And then at a certain point, they forgive the remaining balance. So good debt has different repayment models or options, so then it is advisable to manage that debt, right? Because sometimes holding on to good debt a little bit longer allows you to be able to allocate more of your cash flow or more of your money into investments that will enable your money to be able to grow for your future. Okay, so that is debt. The second thing that you need to know about is saving. When you hear about a savings account, what we've all been taught is save as much as you can, right? Save as much as you can. Colleagues, that is false. You don't want to just save as much as you can. A savings account, the true purpose of a savings account is to serve as an emergency fund. Okay, so it's an account that you can access whenever there's an emergency. It's not just an account to hoard money, as most professionals do. Reason is because if you look at the interest rates on a savings account, it's currently paying about 0.05%. You see, so your parents mean well when they tell you save as much as you can, because about 30 years ago, the interest on a savings account was 12%, but now it's 0.05. It would literally take you, I'm not kidding, I punched these numbers into a calculator before coming up here. It would take you 1,400 years for the money in your account to double at a 0.05% interest rate. So a savings account is meant to be an emergency fund. So what does that mean? It means that you get to decide how much do you want to keep in that account. 6 months of expenses? Or maybe you feel comfortable with 1 year, like my wife does. She likes a lot of money in a savings account. If that is the threshold that you want, put that money in there. But once you get to the 6 months, or once you get to the 1 year threshold of expenses in your savings account, it is not intelligent to keep putting any more money into that account because of the low interest. So then what do you do with that surplus? You invest it. The topic that I find extremely passionate is investing. So there are two ways to build wealth. Okay, so we're moving into the third most important thing that you need to know, right? We talked about debt, saving, and now investing. So there are two ways to build wealth from scratch. Only two ways. So inheritance is not building wealth, right? Because they pass it on to you. So there are only two ways to actually build wealth. The first is investing to build wealth. The second is to start a business. That's it. Okay? From my experience with reading and actually an experienced investor, I can tell you that investing is the easier option. It doesn't require your time. It doesn't require your effort. It doesn't require marketing and sales. So trust me, investing is much easier. But then what we've been made to believe is that investing is complicated, and that investing is difficult, and that you should just hand your money to someone affiliated with Wall Street because they can do a better job than you can. And colleagues, I want to say that that is false. Warren Buffett, the third richest man in the world, he wagered a bet. He said that he's going to put up $1 million against any Wall Street financial person. He placed this bet 10 years ago. He said that he's not even going to complicate investing. All he's going to do is he's going to buy the US stock market index. What that is one single investment fund that you buy, and it tracks the US stock market over time. So he wagered a bet that there is no investment manager in the US or the world that can beat this wager. Someone obviously came up, put down their $1 million and said, I'm going to beat it, because if they believe if they can pick different investments, obviously they can do better. Friends, you can go home and Google Warren Buffett bet, but 10 years later, the one single investment fund was outperforming the Wall Street investment manager by about 6%. Okay, so over a 10-year period, the person was actually beneath that one single fund. So investing is not complicated, it's very simple. So moving forward, what you need to know with regards to investing is that the first place that you start is with your employer's retirement account, right? So a 401k or 403b. Why? Because when you put money into your 401k or your 403b, most companies offer what's called a matching contribution. So you are making money instantly. I mean, a 401k account that's giving you a matching contribution is pretty much giving you 100% return on your money instantly. That doesn't happen anywhere else. So you want to take advantage of that free money. But then what ends up happening is that is the only investment account that we know as professionals. And you don't want to lock all of your money in a 401k. You know, typically, because I'm in the financial education space, someone sees me and they run up to me and they're like, Hans, you need to hear this. I'm like, tell me. They're like, Hans, I am maxing out my 401k. And they typically say that because they want to receive praise. But when I hear that, I get concerned, because all that tells me is that the person doesn't know where else to invest. So they are putting everything in one basket. There's nothing wrong with the 401k, because I told you that's where you start. But then you don't want to just, you know, restrict your earning potential within just a 401k. So what you want to do is you definitely want to contribute to your 401k, take advantage of that matching contribution, but then you want to explore investment funds, specifically exchange traded funds, ETF. And I know the word is you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, what is it, right? But you can just keep these three letters in mind, ETF, exchange traded funds, and you can Google it later on. So an exchange traded fund is a better type of investment fund as compared to mutual funds, which everyone knows mutual funds because that's what our parents have been using. Mutual funds, on average, the commission fees that are charged are 100 times more than exchange traded funds. And a study was done, mutual funds cannot even match the performance of most exchange traded funds. So you have an investment fund, which is an ETF, that is performing better, right? It has higher returns, and it's 100 times cheaper. So please, you want to know about ETFs. Lastly, if you're bold and you're not scared, what you can do is to consider investing in stocks as well. And when it comes to investing in stocks, what I say is only invest in companies that you love and understand. Look around you. Where do you shop, right? When you want to buy something, what company, what website do you go to? Is it Amazon? Right? If you want to keep up with friends, do you go on LinkedIn? If you do and you like LinkedIn, maybe you want to invest in Microsoft. If you go to Facebook and Instagram, which are both owned by Facebook, then maybe you want to do some investing in Facebook, right? Because, for example, me, as a Facebook shareholder, anytime my friends are browsing on Facebook and watching videos, I'm literally making money, and anyone can do that as well. So with investing, invest in companies that you love and understand, and that process starts with looking around you and figuring out what do you use on a daily basis. So friends, I'm going to end with this. There are three things that you all need to do if you want to achieve financial success in our generation. The first is that you need to be saving for an emergency. Okay? Save for an emergency. The second thing that you want to be doing is paying off debt. And the third thing that you want to be doing is investing for the future. Now, it might seem like, well, should I do one? And once I'm done with one, do I move on to the other? No. The secret is to do all three simultaneously. You want to be saving, you want to be paying down debt, you want to be investing for the future, because as you save, you're taking care of any present emergencies that can happen. As you pay down debt, you're handling any past expenses. And as you invest for the future, you are securing it for yourself, your family, and your kids. So then, thank you all for joining me today. If you have questions that you want me to answer, you can find me at booth 622. And thank you all for coming.